there can always be things in our industry that pull at us, and our journeys are all going to be slightly different. But what I think aligns us is that we want to take care of people. We want to feel good. Hello, welcome back to the Successful Stylist Academy podcast. I'm your host, Ambrosia Carey, where we talk about all things in the salon and outside the salon, even for hairstylists and salon owners. You guys are joining us with Drea Letcher, also with Successful Stylist Academy. And today we're talking about a really cool topic. Well, I think it's cool, at least. We're talking about ways of creating a positive work environment in the salon and specifically around communication. So we are going to be going into a couple of instances and situations. This has all come up within our community that we support with Successful Stylist Academy. If you don't already follow us on Instagram, you can find us there. But if you want to dive a little bit deeper into it, also, we do have a members portal that we're going to be launching very soon. Also, we have a fun 10-day business kind of freebie that we wanted to offer to you guys as well. So we have lots of things to, include you in, but right now we're really focusing on ways that we can iron out our communication skills the best. So we have the most positive work environments, therefore happier people around us and a longer lasting career as well. Hi, Drea, how's it going?
Hey, it's going great. Yes, so many good things coming up. I'm really, really excited about our membership page, you guys. So ask questions, communicate with us on that because we are super excited to launch that to you guys and with you guys. And communication, I'm in. Like that's right in my wheelhouse. So yeah, let's do it.
Well, if you want to go ahead and get started, Drea, communication is something that has been a really strong suited topic for you. I know it's one of the major pillars that you focus on as a coach inside of Successful Stylist Academy. So I figured no one else better than to kick off this lovely topic and, just share some things with us that you have learned throughout your many, many years in the industry on ways of communicating, creating a positive environment, how to handle things. So I'll let you kind of lead this.
Thanks. No pressure there at all. No, yes, I love communication. And I just think, when we step out of our comfort zones, when we create awareness around not just moving through our day, but the way that we actually want to interact with people, when we put purpose and energy behind it, I just think the world and every single interaction is just always, always a better place. And we get busy and we get taken for a ride by our emotions, by our schedules, by how our body feels that day. And we forget that we do make a difference. One person makes a difference. One smile makes someone else's day better. So I'm actually going to start with that. And I'm just going to start with not forgetting to overlook the simple things. So on my way to work, on my drive, I commute. So it's as much as some people are like, oh, I wouldn't want to commute to work. I always thought that. My commute is a really pretty commute. I am not on the freeway. I am not stuck in traffic. So let me just say that first. But I have time, about 45 minutes at least, to put on a podcast or do a little quiet time and have my first cup or my second cup of coffee, depending on how the morning went. And I try to use that time to say, wow, like a little prayer time for me is what it looks like, but it can be even a gratitude list for you. But that's what it is. I'm like, thank you, God, for my car. Thank you that I'm getting down the hill on time to work. Thank you that I have an amazing place to work that, I enjoy going to. And thank you for the people and help me to be a blessing or something positive in my clients' day to day and in the people that I work with. Like, help me to be someone who, when I show up, the day gets better. Help to give me favor with everyone I encounter as I move through my day. Help me to operate in purpose. And these are things that instead of just, listening to whatever might go into my head and start my day, I'm really intentional about how I want to kick off my day and even how I wake up in the morning. So I would say choose to take a deep breath, choose to have that gratitude list before you go into work. It's so easy to be busy, to be nervous about a client, to go through the motions, to just get in the habits of going on autopilot, and not even in a malicious way, but I think we fall into that and we get comfortable with the people that we work with and the things that we're surrounded with. And we forget that it's really a cool thing what we get to do. I think just in our lives and maybe in our areas or in our industry or in this country or however you want to look at it. So I would say choose to take a deep breath, smile, greet other people's clients, say good morning every morning to everyone that you see. Say goodbye. Don't Irish exit out the back, like say goodbye. Say I'll see you tomorrow. One thing that's really awesome that actually our salon owners started, and now I'm about it, is if you are not the last person, and even you're the second last person in the salon, if there's bowls in the sink, we clean them all. We're like the last person. At least we're going to make sure that if they're leaving late, they're not doing bowls. They're not cleaning extra bowls, whether they're their bowls or somebody else's bowls, they're not doing it. And that's just one little thing. So I just want to say, be intentional. It creates a really great morale, really good environment, and don't overlook the simple things.
That's beautiful. We're all done now. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm just kidding. Drea, I love that how your brain works, because you and we can be so different in so many ways and also very similar and complement one another in so many ways too. You immediately went for like intentionality, mindset, like what's happening inside of you. And I think that should not ever be overlooked or forgotten. It's so easy to move through a day with lack of purpose and intention. I've done it many times, trust me, just like on autopilot, I'll show up and just like, I don't even remember how I got here at sometimes. So I think even just putting some intention behind the most basic of things, I think actually doing that helps you prepare for being intentional about the things that you really want in life too. So sometimes it takes those small little tiny steps. So I would say the way I fall on this Richter scale is being open and transparent, because I think it's really easy. Well, I'm coming at this from a salon owner standpoint, of course, but in my range, I feel like I have to have all the answers and I have to look so polished and like I've got everything together, and I can't show any doubt or, ask for feedback from people. And those are the wrong ways of going about it. I think in order to foster a really great team and to actually foster an open culture, have things like an open door policy where team members feel like they are comfortable enough to express their ideas and talk about their concerns and ask for feedback. Because the last thing you want is the rug pulled from under you. Nobody wants that feeling. And sometimes it happens in our industry because somebody doesn't feel safe to share something. They don't feel comfortable with being vulnerable. For some reason, personalities conflict and then there's no resolve to it. And so in that same vein, if there's somebody that is not jiving well with one another, like that's going to happen. We're going to have mixed personalities where something either gets misinterpreted or someone doesn't find something as important as the other one does. So what I do is almost play like a little bit of a mediator in some ways, where I'm not the one who's solving the problems. So that's kind of where you put on your like own coaching hat in a way, where you take a step back for a moment and you just listen. There's so much power in listening to where other people are coming from, because we all know the saying of, what is that saying again? We all know the saying of perception is reality. Perception is reality to that person. So sometimes just listening to them and giving them a chance to like speak about things is a really great way to solve things that may have been escalated into others or may like just actually be happening in that person's head. So creating that safe space, fostering that open communication, open door policy. And the last part of this transparency and being open is to praise publicly and critique privately. I have a very, very short story about this, and I've probably talked about this before, but early on in salon ownership hood, when I was like learning how to be an actual salon owner, I learned the hard way by talking to a stylist in front of everyone else in the break room. I think I was just asking her to do something that she had forgotten to do, and it really embarrassed her. And her way of handling that embarrassment was to handle it with defense. So she got defensive with me. And then I said, okay, I need to pull this person away. So I just said, can I see you in the office really quick? And everyone was kind of like, ooh. So it was awkward, uncomfortable. I felt really badly about it after that went down. Nobody really felt great about it. I'm sure she felt terrible. And, I learned that the hard way, that you just don't make sure that if you're going to talk to anybody at all, you're talking to the whole room or you're praising that person in front of the whole room. And if you want to ask any question at all, no matter how big or small it feels to you, just do it privately, and it doesn't matter if you're a salon owner or not. Just respect the people around you and understand that the way you intend for something to come out might not come across that way to that person. So pulling them aside and just having a private conversation is a better way of handling something, always, over doing it in a public domain. So,
I mean, praise publicly and, critique privately. Make a note because we need to make a little post, set aside on Successful Styles Academy. I just think that goes across the board. I mean, that's in the salon. You and I have both worked hair shows. I know things get busy, but if something's going on, like pull that person aside. What if we did that in relationships? How many times in relationships did something annoy us and we don't bring it up, and then we're at dinner with friends and we like bring it up in a sarcastic way and it's just not so funny maybe to the other person.
yeah.
I mean, that can just go everywhere in life. So I love that you said that. I also think I was a salon owner for 5 years as well. And I really like to be, now that I am no longer a salon owner, I really like to see from that perspective, still put myself in their shoes and try to be an asset, like try to go after the things that really are going to make the salon owner's day like harder or awful, and go after those things and try to help in those ways. And I think a lot of times as salon owners, we really want the people who are working for us to take ownership. And in that case, we have to partner with them and we have to create that safe place, or else that really can't happen. And ultimately, that's what we all want, is to feel like we have ownership in the things that we're doing and we're putting our time and our energy and our gifts into. So yeah, awesome. My next one, I'm kind of shifting gears a little bit, and this is from more of a salon owner standpoint, but I also think if this isn't happening in your salon, this is something that you could go to your salon owner and encourage this as being something that's maybe put in place in the future. And that is to have monthly or quarterly meetings. And I think this does happen in a lot of salons, but there's some that it doesn't, or it doesn't really get planned ahead of time. So you think it's happening quarterly and it actually happened like 9 months ago. So this is something that I think is really important, to have open communication with your team and everyone, to be able to just kind of have a great conversation and have an opportunity to connect. One thing I did as a salon owner is I had quarterly meetings. I started with monthly and I was like, wow, a month goes by really fast. And that's a lot of time for people sometimes. And if that works for you, that's amazing. So I did quarterly meetings, and I would ask people to prepare ahead of time something that we could improve upon, something that you're dreaming of. Like, what is your dream for the salon? Like, not just my dream, but what is your dream for this salon? And it could be more specific to you. It could be an all over thing. It could be that we are knocking out a wall and we're putting, it could be anything. Just what is your dream about the salon? Give me your vision. And then the last thing would be, what is something that we're doing really, really well that we can share? So everyone would have an opportunity to share those things. And then twice a year, I would either have someone else come in, or I'd prepare like a get up type of team, fun, silly, like team building activity that might even take us out of our comfort zone a little bit. But it gives us the chance to grow together, to be vulnerable, to be silly, to play together, and to get to know each other a little bit more. So I think if you are doing a salon meeting, just maybe put some more ideas and intention behind them. And I hope some of those ideas might help some of our listeners out there. And if it's something that you're not doing, I would suggest kind of putting that into play, even if it's twice a year at this point, or if it's a shorter form of time. But I really think that it is important for a salon team.
I am a huge, huge fan of team meetings and meetings in general. I think it's such a great way to get on the same page, to create and extend goals out, to support one another, help each other, make sure that you're still on the same page. A lot of times, if you are either joining a salon team as a hairstylist, or if you're creating your own salon, then you have these core values that you share with people, just like the clients who come in to see you that come back on a regular basis. Everyone has something core value that may be tying each to one another, even if they're not the same kind of a person, they're getting completely different services. So I think regular team meetings is a very underlooked thing. I think conducting those regular meetings have to do with like, I like to do monthly meetings with the whole staff and everyone's included. That also means, independent stylists too. So, cause I have a hybrid salon, I think having everyone that can be together in the same place, and we have all kinds of fun activities. Like sometimes I'll even bring in a makeup artist as a guest, or we'll do PK so that we can like know what some of the new products are. We always like to do votes to see who likes what, who doesn't. Sometimes we'll talk about hero products. Sometimes we'll grab a bunch of magazines and just throw them in the center and get scissors and glue, and we'll have a board and we'll create like a storyboard together or a mood board or something that has to do with like the next season and Pantone colors, that sort of thing. Sometimes we'll like to, sometimes we like to even just find out from other people, like, what are you doing for self-care, or what are your goals outside of the salon? Everyone kind of shares that. Sometimes we even play games where we write one word inside of a bowl, and each person picks out the thing and they have to guess who it belongs to. So sometimes we'll do things that have nothing to do with what we do inside the salon, but everything to do with what ties us together as a group. And I feel like there's so much value in that should never be overlooked. So what I do is I make sure that everyone is blocked off on the last Friday of every month in the morning from 9 to 11. We bring like a big breakfast in for everyone, lay it all out on the dispensary. Everyone loads up their plates. They sit down and they're chattering and they're kind of catching up with each other. It's kind of a feel good thing because it's the end of the month. We're looking forward to next month. And we talk about goals.
I think I'm going to come to the next one.
I mean, I wish you would. I hate that you live so far away, Drea. You should just totally come up sometime. That would be hilarious. Actually, just be like, hi, I'm just here for the meeting.
I'm actually not here as a guest speaker. I'm just here to eat breakfast and hang out.
I know. Grab yourself some frittata, some fresh fruit, grab some juice, good to go. But I feel like that is something that's so valuable that it feels like a small thing, but to me, it means a lot. And it brings our inner community back together again. And it lets us get back on the same page again. And sometimes actually removing the hair from it and removing the tasks and removing the things that you want to be done inside of that. And just making it about your own collaboration is just such a priceless thing. And then the second type of meeting that I like to hold is individual meetings, is a one-on-one meeting with each stylist. And this gets extended out to the independent stylist as well. So it's more or less like a coaching one-on-one where we talk about that person's individual goals. And a lot of times people don't really know how well they're doing or the areas that they feel like could support where their goals are. And I feel like any great salon owner or somebody who's a leader, any team leader, even if you're independent, no matter what your structure looks like, I think if you help somebody and foster better communication skills as far as getting you to your goal, you can associate any kind of goal with the actions that you do and anything. Just think about this for a second. So let's say you had a small goal where you wanted to increase your client retention. Let's say you want to increase your client retention by 2%. And that feels like, okay, that's boring. Like 2%, what does that even mean? What does 2% actually look like over the course of a month? And then you realize like, oh, that actually means I only need to pre-book one extra client per week. That's actually not much. 2% is not that intimidating when you think about it that way. The reason though, behind pre-booking that one extra person was not to get the 2%. The 2% goal was because you wanted more security in your finances for your future. And you had too many gaps in your days. So you just wanted to fill those gaps a little bit more by increasing your retention. So then you have a greater purpose behind it. So that was my tangent way of getting around that. But I think it's really important that any goal that you're stating and setting is that you're doing it for a greater reason. And if you understand the greater reason for setting that goal, then it's easier for you to actually want to achieve that goal. And if the goal is too small for you, then maybe think about like, what is my deeper goal and how can I connect that? So going a little bit off of that team meeting thing, I think it's really important that even if you don't have a salon owner who's really interactive with this piece of it, I think it's so important that if you're choosing to be in an environment and you're surrounded with like-minded people, you don't have to be the salon owner in order to coach other people through this. It literally means like you can actually be there as an accountability buddy. So if you have a similar goal to a coworker, then holding each other accountable, you can check in with each other. Like you don't have to rely on the owner to do that. Taking ownership means that you are actually putting intention and purpose behind the things that you're doing today to get to where you want to be in the future. So I guess that was my long-winded answer to that. And then I think the next thing is collaborating with that team building factor. So I kind of talked a little bit about it where you're holding your team member accountable, but I think actually having projects that you can work on together as a team member kind of creates like a stronger dynamic. And then you're able to contribute a little bit more fun to your working environment. Like you could say, I have a model that I want to bring in on this day, and I was wondering if you wanted to collab with me. So that would be one situation. Another one could be, I have a client and I know that you specialize in this, and this is something that I'm a little nervous about. Would you be willing to come hang out with me and just be a part of that process with me or help me formulate this? So those are one of the many instances I can think of. But I do think collaboration and team building, they definitely go hand in hand together. And I think it's an extension of those meetings. They're very overlooked sometimes and undervalued. And I think it's a really big component in what can create a very strong working environment, not just for you, but for your coworkers and everyone else around you.
I think as a salon owner, having one-on-ones, offering one-on-ones, I mean, it's just another way that we say, I see you, I hear you, and I support you. And I think that it almost goes from salon owner into mentorship a little bit. So if you are somebody that's comfortable, like going into that really team leader, because I know salons look different. Like you have a hybrid, some people have, all commission and employee, some people they maybe don't feel that mentorship team leader, and they do have on purpose like a full rental salon so that people are kind of doing their own thing. But I think even just like that check-in and how's it going and what do things look like for you like this next year? Is there anything I can do to come alongside you to help support that, helping them goal set, or knowing that they can come to you and say, I don't really know what some of my goals could be, but here's some of my struggles and you can turn them into goals. Like that's really, really cool. So I would definitely look into that opportunity. And also as a stylist, if you want a one-on-one and your salon owner does not offer it, ask them. Like, and I've done that in the past. Like, hey, I've been here 2 years. I see that you guys probably don't offer one-on-ones, but I really like to have a check-in to hold myself accountable and for growth. Would that be okay? And usually they're like, oh, yeah, wow. So you can also be that person. A lot of times we're like, oh, this isn't the salon with the fit that I want, or but don't forget how much power you have to change the atmosphere of where you're at. My last thing is just to celebrate each other as a salon and to celebrate individually. Even the little things, like we had a stylist last week and man, she took on a project and we were all involved. Like we were all invested by the end. It was a client that had to come in 2 different days. You guys know how that goes. And she knew what she was taking on, but we're back there, we're formulating. She ran out of color. One stylist is running to get more of the color for her that she needs on this client. And how did it go? I've got to go back in the next day. Okay, how are you feeling? Do you want us to bring you lunch tomorrow? Just those little things of just showing up for one another, I think is really, really cool. And it's so different than being in a salon where you just like completely, tunnel vision on what you're doing. So birthdays, like there's too many birthdays sometimes. It's hard to celebrate everyone's birthday. So sometimes we do dinner instead of just having a Christmas party or something once a year. We do two dinners or one fun event where we go throw axes or something. And it's like, this is for the people's birthday that was in this first part of the year. And this is for the people's birthday that's at the last part of the year. And it gives us 2 more excuses to get together and do fun things, setting goals as a salon, resell. We hit this mark for social media, whatever that looks like, quantity, quality, I would definitely say there's, something, bringing in lunch, like do something that is celebrating the victories, because we can just get on to the next thing and we can forget to do that. And it's fun and it's important and it makes us it makes us remember of the track record we created and what is truly possible in the future. So I think a lot goes into celebrating victories individually, for the salon as a whole, big or small.
Yeah, that's a good one. I love that. I think also it's really easy to focus on like what's next in our career. And when we're in a state where we're constantly trying to keep up with time, like time is our greatest enemy, it's really easy to forget to show recognition and appreciation for others. So sometimes little tiny milestones even can be really big as far as leadership goes, and just recognizing that people do really beautiful things. Like if somebody walks away from another person's chair and I recognize that's a beautiful color, don't just think it, say it out loud. Like, wow, that's gorgeous. Or like, what's your formula for that? Or that's a great cut. Or, pay a compliment forward. There's nothing, it's not like we have a shortage of compliments that we can give out. So just be abundant with them, and be okay with saying them, because you will get them back in return. And there's something to be said about that. I learned something a while back about 5 love languages. I think a lot of us have talked about those before in the past, and it's not like a secret or anything. 5 love languages, as far as I know, was started by a man named John Gottman. He wrote a book on this, and he even has an institute, I think up in Seattle, I want to say. I think it's like ridiculously priced, and it's kind of something that couples can go to. And at one point, I even heard something along the lines of he could predict whether or not you were going to stay together as a couple based on the way that you communicated with each other. And I thought that was really fascinating. And I also wonder, it begged me to wonder too, that if you were told by somebody that you wouldn't work, would you end it right then and there? Or would you actually stubbornly say like, well, because they said that, I see that as a challenge and we're going to work together? I guess regardless of it, the point is that everyone receives and gives love in different ways. And even if there were only 5 love languages, and this is true, I think it's really important to understand your coworkers' love language, your friends, your partners, anybody that you surround yourself by, understanding like the way they receive love and the way that you can give it, and to show them that you actually appreciate them in the way they like it, it speaks volumes, because it shows that you actually care enough to care the way that they receive care, not the way you show it, because that can come across as selfish. If somebody likes words of affirmation, but you're constantly doing acts of service type of thing, and they might not receive it that way, right? So try to think of things like that when with your work environment. When you start doing it for others and you talk about it and they're doing the same thing to you, it just creates a more positive work environment. And by the way, it also lets you serve your clients in a very different way when you start understanding those love languages too. So that's something that I think it would be really important to add to the list. And then the last thing I would say is, I think it's really important to provide opportunities for professional development, not just for you, but for everyone around you, regardless if you're a team leader or not. And so I guess what that could look like is visit a local beauty school around you, talk to some of the students, do a little give back. If there's shadowing opportunities, provide that. And if you have a salon owner who's not necessarily on board with it, talk to them and plead your case and talk about why it's so important. And, taking that on can feel really fulfilling. And it's also like things just end up transpiring into a whole different thing. And I've been in the industry long enough that I could say things come back. Things always come back in ways and times that you might not ever expect it. So I think giving back to schools, shadowing opportunities, and just creating ways of actually having a more of a personal and professional development that you can claim as your own, that you brought into your environment, just speaks volumes about you. And yeah, there might be times that you outgrow the salon that you're in and you'll find other salons. But the point is that you're focusing on you and your own development, and you're inviting people around you. And it just feels so much more gratifying, and it creates a more positive space for yourself.
Even though we're different, I think, we're the same too. My last one was just create opportunity for growth. And I think it's just along those exact same lines. I mean, a bored stylist is not a happy or productive stylist. I don't think that's where we get stagnant. So I think those opportunities for growth is great. And as a salon owner, I think that's very, very important. But just as you said, I mean, as a stylist, I go and do a couple times a year at a community center, kids haircuts. I do haircuts at a Woman's Haven, and I just, I don't post it or anything, but I just invite a couple other stylists that I think might be interested. And usually that also turns into conversation, or sometimes we get to pray with these women, or sometimes like, there's just a connection. So there's always, I think every time you give of yourself and you put yourself out there, it just works backwards. Like you always end up getting something more for whatever you thought you were going to give. And it's a really, really beautiful thing. So yes, education, community, it just lifts everybody up. So yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of community, we want to thank all you guys for just being a part of our journey. It's sometimes it can be lonely in this industry. And sometimes it can feel like you have a million friends that you don't like know personally, but you feel connected to them. And obviously we want to encourage you always to dream big, set goals, and take action. But we also want to remind you that we wouldn't be here doing this podcast if it weren't for all the voices and the important people in this industry. And this is what interconnects all of us, whether you've been doing hair for 5 minutes or 50 years. I've connected with several of you, and I hope to continue to connect with you guys, because this is what sews the fabric of my personal journey in this industry, for wanting to always be better and to show up as a better person and to leave this industry in a better way than I entered it, at least through my mind. And there can always be things in our industry that pull at us, and our journeys are all going to be slightly different. But what I think aligns us is that we want to take care of people. We want to feel good. And when you strip those things away and we just go to those two simple things, there's something that is so beautiful in that we can all be a part of. So as a major thank you to all of you listening, any of you who have ever left a review or continue to leave a review for the rest of this month, you will be automatically included into a really big giveaway that Farmagel has put together graciously with us, celebrating our 100th episode and surpassing 10,000 downloads. So again, thank you for being a part of this growing journey. And thank you for being a part of our community and being the voices to pave the way for so many who are entering our industry as well. And we'll see you guys all next week.